Well, this video I have another VCR. This one's a good old National NV300. Model number there. Unfortunately missing the door on the front, which takes away from its appeal, but this was just a cheap one I picked up. And I couldn't resist getting it because these were such a good machine back in the day. Fixed up many of these. Usually just need a belt kit. Not much else really went wrong with the things, and they did last a long time because no lamp in these, not an incandescent lamp, it's got an LED, and they didn't really chew the belts out anytime quick. They just really died of old age. It's a lot more reliable than the Sharp machines. I think they sort of last around the same amount of time as the JVC HR7200s. They did have lamps go earlier, I think. But these were a great little machine. Must have been around the era where VCRs just got to that price range. So I think they're around 1983, where most people could afford one. And they sold like anything. There used to be hundreds of these around. But I haven't seen one in a long time, so it's nice to see one again. But yeah, just a shame the door's missing. I would have had all the parts to replace that once upon a time, but no more. Hopefully it'll turn up somewhere. I guess we'll plug her in and see what it actually does. And nothing. That's a bit rare. That's rare in any VCR. Oh, actually we got yeah, no channel button pushed in. That's probably why we didn't even have a channel light. Or at least we got a channel light. Actually, there is a clock just flashing in there, I think. I was going to say these do occasionally get fusible resistors and stuff gone. Oh yeah, it's there, very dimly. So even that's still battling on in there. Don't know if you can see that in the camera, but there is a very dim clock blinking in there. So this may have been plugged in for the last, since 1983 probably. And the clock's just faded because of that. Let's try dummy tape. It's not going in. Yeah, there's a little white tab in the way there. Don't actually remember that being an issue, but I don't know how many dummy tapes I put in these things. Oh, we've got take up. Sounding like it's struggling a little bit, but we are only in vision search, so the rewind, let's see, does it? It's sucking the tape in, doesn't look the most active. Doesn't sound the best either. That's doing pretty well for its age. It's probably getting due for a belt kit. That doesn't sound the happiest, but with no load on it, that might be making it a bit noisier too. Channel button's looking a bit wonky. There's not sitting straight. That seems to be... Oh, she hesitated a bit there. I think this tape might not be in the best condition. Problem with these test tapes is they get a bit of damage on them. So they're not the best for actually testing anything. But we could have an issue in that. We maybe have a tension issue. Or we're putting muck on the tape again. Oh yeah, it's not rewinding there. So it's aborted that because the reel didn't move. It's working alright in that mode. But we may have tension or pinch roller putting oil on tapes or something. One of those sort of issues again. That's actually vision searching backwards now. Oh, and now it doesn't work because we've got too much tension. I reckon this is probably going to need a pinch roller as well. Yeah, tape looks okay, but that's pretty much what we had in that 870 or whatever it was. And I think these machines are somewhat related to the 870, even though they're not a front-loading one. Take that off. 3 screws on the back. Off she comes. Well, it looks pretty good in there. Pretty dusty. Add a little bit of moisture in there by the look of it. Get rid of our head shield. Usually best to put one screw back just to hold those wires so they don't drop off and short anywhere. Ooh, great big blob of something on the head. Quite dirty, so I don't know if that's corroded. That can be another problem. Yeah, that's quite the blob of something on there. Ripped a piece of oxide off a tape somewhere. Doesn't feel bad. But it does look a little like it's lost its shine in places. Yeah, some serious muck coming off there. Let's do the lower drum as well. Yeah, pretty dirty. Now better do the heads themselves. Looks like it's got a new tension band in it, which is nice to see. Doesn't look like it's got anywhere. Normally they've got a bit of dust and stuff compressed into them. So this machine may have been fixed at some point and maybe then just didn't get used much and they got rid of it, I don't know. I doubt it's actually been done at any time recently, but looks like it's been done and not had many hours use since. But yeah, they may have put, I don't know, it could have been that tape of mine even, or they've put a tape in there when it's a bad tape. Something's a bit damp or something, and to be fair, the pinch roller I think has been changed as well. That doesn't look like it's done any work, which might be a good sign. Hopefully I don't have to change that. Is it actually the right pinch roller though? It kind of looks a bit small for the cap that's on top of it. I thought they were a bit larger diameter, but I doubt someone would have fitted a wrong one in there, but you never know. But there's no oxide on the pinch roller at all. I gave it a clean anyway just in case there's muck on it. Yeah, look, someone's greased the guides up. They're normally dry as in one of these machines. Turn the power back on. What's going on with that idler? That idler's turned to goo by the look of it. That's the play. Oh, yeah, it's left layers of muck all over the... Oh, God, look at it. Well, that's the first VCR I think I've had with gooed belts. Guess it was going to happen sooner or later. Looks like it's time to get the acetone out again. There's hardly any of this left after all the boom boxes and stuff. Yeah, that's the same. Muck doesn't come off until you use a bit of acetone, so that is in a really poor condition. But I'm going to just persist with it for now. I was hoping it wouldn't need a belt kit, but it looks like it will. If we can still get on. The clock's actually looking a bit better now. So I wonder if we've got caps or something out. That's another possibility. That clock's not getting its full voltages. Ooh, what happened there? It's not shutting anymore. Hitting on something. Oh, there's a blocker. Little plastic bit blocking this little roller here. Is the mechanism out of whack? Let's hit eject again. Ah, so for some reason, I don't think I touched the mechanism, but anyway, it wasn't in the eject mode. Weird. Still no picture. Not 100% sure this tape's got anything on it. It should have though. Oh yeah, lots of back tension. Only just going. Oh, there you go. It's stopped. Yeah, if we take that arm off, so that might be coming from the lower drum or something. But we've got no image. Yeah, there's definitely something on that tape because we've got audio. Sometimes it pays to hit pause and see because it overrides some of the tracking and stuff. Or the fast forward rewind.
And to say thank you for their service and their sacrifice.
Oh, hit the wrong button. Ooh, we've tuned out. I'll give that another clean because it was well dirty. Actually, I can see something on the head there. Gotta be careful you don't get cotton bud on there, but it looked like it had a bit of something whitish on there. Doesn't take much to clog them. Still plenty of muck on that upper drum. Sometimes you find the lower drum's the same, you can just clean it. It does feel not the smoothest. So it might be a bit of corrosion damage. Sometimes you just got to clean and clean and clean. Sometimes you actually got to use a bit of metal polish just to resurrect the lower drum. Try a different tape in there. Yay! We finally got one to do it. I was going to say it's pretty cold tonight. That's what happens when you leave the drum too wet. Someone actually asked me to demonstrate that, so I knew it would happen sooner or later anyway, being in the cold part of Tassie. So we've got the tape wrapped right around the drum several times by the look of it. There it goes. So it's just sticking to the drum. That's what happens when you've got a damp rotary head drum. Not enough to set off the dew sensor because it's just our methylated spirits and stuff. It really doesn't want to suck that tape back in either. There we go, we're nearly getting there. Of course, these sensors, the real sensor's cutting in so quick that it should have run now. Yeah, that's fine. But sometimes it gets even worse than that, but you get a bit of a wraparound of tape and we've got the same image issues with a different tape. Not sure what's on that tape if anything. Where's my test tape? Yeah, we've got no picture. So that's what it's looking like. No colour, nothing. A bit like faulty heads, but we've got a few lines there. That should be a colour bar test pattern. And this is in chewing mode, so I've got to watch how I rewind it each time. I'll fast forward it. And it's not fast forwarding anymore. It's not rewinding. Oops, I pressed play again. Guides are fully up. Guides a little loose maybe. Yeah. So it's got some good things and it's got some bad things. But yeah, no image. So we may have to have a look and see what's coming off the heads. Let's hope we haven't got a drum issue again. Heads themselves now seem clean, but plenty still coming off the drum itself. Even though it looks clean, there's a bit of brown stuff on there. Now where does this feed into is the next problem. And do we have dud caps and stuff on these things? Possibility. I forget where even the power and stuff really is in this. I think some of it's down on the board there. Oh yeah, some's under there. A few big caps there. So I might be time to have a quick look at the bottom of this thing. But yeah, I can't remember exactly what electronic faults he's got because they were pretty rare, at least in my experience. Maybe in hotter areas or something more common, but I know there were fusible resistors that used to die in them, causing various functions to stop working. Well, I'm not sure about whether I ever had to replace capacitors, but you know, it's been more than 20 years since I've really worked on these things. So they're a lot older now. Oh, that's right, we've got this big SDR chip thing there. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Again, most of these, you never touch any of this, you just got the board out of the way so you can put belts in it. Does this one unclip from the bottom? I'm trying to remember how the front console. Yeah, it does. So it's not even really clipped on. Remove front PCB before opening, as with a lot of these machines. I think, oh, maybe this one just unclips, does it? I get a feeling it doesn't actually have any screws. Yeah, that's it. That should be loose. And then here it just clips for this maybe. Oh, there's one there. There. Do we have to take a screw out here? Maybe we do. I see a couple of red screws. That's usually a sign they got to come out. Well, they were red once. The heads are faded. There's a couple more down there. Are they? I think they might be. Pretty randomly placed screws, that's for sure. There's that one that has to come out, maybe. Sometimes you just got to start unclipping things and see what happens. That's three. Did that one down the bottom have to come out? No, it actually did. I think this one here. I thought for a minute it probably didn't, but. There's lots of dust in there. We've lost the tracking control. Where'd that come from? Oh, because that got flicked off by the front board. I don't like the way that capacitor's sitting on an angle, but maybe that's just the wiring. Sometimes that could be a sign that they've spewed their guts out underneath. Oh yeah, the little plastic bit that goes there to cover the belt, and the other one there. Yeah, been a long time since I've seen inside one of these. These are really more of a 90s machine to still repair for a few people and fix up second hand and sell. And after that, yeah, trying to sell top loaders or even getting people to fix them was not such a big thing. People were upgrading by then, but they still made a good sort of kids' bedroom video or something like that. Yeah, some of that solder's not looking the greatest now, but it's all intact. I wonder where the voltage for the clock comes from. I'm going to definitely check that one. That's C2 there and a C3. Make sure they're discharged. Not sure what sort of voltage this thing uses. I think that's just a linear regulator, not a switch motor or anything. Okay. No, 0.05, that's probably good. 0.04. Now where does everything go from there is the next question. Don't know if I've got a circuit for one of these anymore. I do have an old book full of video circuits that may well have these in there. I think the 333 was basically the same machine as well, but had some sort of extra feature. And definitely a few caps down this area are going to be worth checking. Starting with C13 there, 0.2, it's only a small one. Now C90, they haven't actually labelled these with, that seems to be open circuit, but they haven't labelled the electrolytics any different, unfortunately. What have we got? We've got two ones I really want to check. Oh yeah, they haven't labelled them as a, that seems to be open circuit. If that's an electrolytic, 1.2, so I've got this C4, possibly C9, I can't really see what C9 is, it's next to that connector or whatever it is. I don't think it's an electro, it's, oh god, that's up against diodes. C4, C6 and C4, yeah, C4 is measuring open. That would probably be our clock. Okay, where are we? C4, open, 1.3, that's probably alright for that. That's open circuit. C9 doesn't matter, that's just a disc ceramic. Yeah, that one, or one of those, if not both of them, they're right apart against these diodes. Yeah, it was a C4. It's sitting, that's the one that's closest to them. It's sitting right next to, right on top of them, basically. There's a little one there. That's C12, I think. C12 there next to those big ones. 2.2 is probably okay. There's another one, right? C5, I think there. 0.5 could be a bit high. Without knowing the value of it, I think we actually have to loosen this wiring in the corner a bit to get this thing to open a bit wider. Yeah, that's probably a bit better. Let's work on it like that. Yes, that's our C4 that's open circuit. There's another one hiding under there. What's this other one? That's a 220. That's probably getting a little high at 0.5. Oh, if it's low enough voltage, it might be alright. There's one more hiding there, that's what I want. C7. Yeah, it's within reason. Check that one. Oh, look, we're pulling our head connector off here. There's a short wire here. And they didn't make it too easy to work on. And we've got a lot of stuff around these chips and stuff, could be faulty. Yeah, that's probably one of our fusible resistors under that bit of fiberglass tape there. And with a little relay in there. I thought they were a yellow looking fusible resistor in these things, but now that I want to see one, I can't see any anywhere. I've got some of the normal blue ones. Must have been a different machine, unless that's one hidden under there. And we do have a couple of electrolytics in the power board there by the look of it, or some sort of board there. And yeah, ones like these on the end of the heatsink there are definitely worth a look. If I can work out where they are, up here somewhere. Oh, that's part of the heatsink. That's good. Should be one right up there, maybe. Good. And I was going to check near that chip. Oh, near the connector there. 12's pretty high, but it's only a small one. 11, 12, they're all measuring about the same. Except that one. Yeah, that was only a disc ceramic. They all seem good. Tracking shift, PG shift. Now, is that the actual head? Or is that the audio? We've got a delay line there, so maybe that is the signal from the heads coming in here. I mean, it's got that much shielding, it probably is. Colour delay line and stuff, so there's another big delay line. Maybe that's a Luma delay line, I don't know if they have one, but a couple of caps down there. But let's replace that faulty one. That one. Not sure that's a lot better, but at least we can see the clock a bit. I probably could do with a clean as well. Sometimes the inside of these things need a clean. There's a little bit of a coating. But yeah, I think it had come about that good before anyway. God, yeah, it's not going into place properly, I don't think. So I'm probably got a slip and belt in the mechanism as well. Well, it's got a little bit more lines on the picture than it had before. Interesting. So that's actually more of a picture than we had before, believe it or not. There's the pause button. So when you pause it here, you can see a little bit of the test pattern coming up there briefly before it's hunting away. I'll just put my fingers on the drum there, because lines going that way is often a bit of a drum speed issue or something. Maybe heating the board up in this thing will make it come good again. But that's a lot more than we had before, so even that capacitor might have been related. Vision search doesn't really do anything. Oh, that one's chewing. Luckily it's got a different idler for the play in this, so even if the fast forward rewind doesn't work very well. Yeah, it's trying to do a picture. Okay, after heating up the main board, I've basically got it to stop sort of looking like it's got horizontal hold issue, and a bit of colour did flick up when I moved the tracking, though it's gone again now. But certainly better, so I think we've still got some dodgy caps in this thing somewhere. It still looks like dirty heads as well, but whether that's a head issue or something else, I do thankfully actually have a circuit for this thing which should help. And I think it's IC 3002 is our main head amp, which I've got to find it, possibly under the shield. Oh, there's a 002 written on an IC, so it's probably under the metal shielding. Okay, I just checked the pattern generator through this, that's all running fine. But we'll have to have a look at the head signal, I think, on this machine, if I can find play. Where are you? It may be worth heating the thing up a bit to see what it comes up like. So that's what it's doing. I'll just start heating the thing up a bit. Yeah, with a bit of heat we tend to get a bit of those lines that look like a bit like horizontal hold loss disappear, and it sinks in a bit better, a bit of colour showing up. So I'll remove this metal cover off here. There's a bunch of test points. A couple of pairs of them near these inductors are for the heads. Oh, put my fingers on there, seems to have made it a bit worse. Maybe it just went worse on its own. And there should be a test point 12 or 13, which is our FEM waveform out. Luckily I've got one of these circuit books. I used to own one of these ages ago. Wagner used to sell them, probably others. Just a big bunch of national circuits thrown together, not printed very well. Not sure if that, where it is, somewhere in Asia by the look of it. For some reason they did this particular one. I want the luma and chroma section in red, which doesn't make it very easy to read, but that's our heads here, head A, head B. Come along into this chip, which is the chip under that cover, and there should be an output here somewhere. Where are our test points? I forget what I was looking at now, but that's our, here we are. Oh, that's in play mode, yeah, test point 12, 3012 it is. Even though it says C-cam. What's this other test point for power? That comes out of God knows what. FM demodulator. So it's more of this waveform we want, which should be a continuous sort of waveform. If one head is out or the drum or something, we'll have half of that missing. So let's have a look at that. Looks like we run out of tape probably. So we can just use where that metal shield went as ground. There might even be a test point there somewhere for ground. And that's not looking the best. What have we got? I don't think we'll see anything off the heads directly. Oh, that's a very low signal. We might get a little bit, but yeah, virtually nothing to see there. That makes the picture a lot worse. So does that one. Maybe one, I thought one of those might have been ground, but maybe not. So we want to go to test point 12. Picture's a little bit better than it was a second ago. Maybe I wonder if that's to do with their oscilloscope being on there. There it is. Rather weird. Yeah, put the oscilloscope on, we get a bit more stable picture, but that's the image. They should normally just be one waveform. I think it's got this weird upward thing. So maybe there's something dodgy in that head switching. Because I think that should be the normal waveform. What's this other one? Oh, that's only got one waveform. What test point have we got here? Of course, it's hidden under the... Okay, so that goes to C37 to this pin. It says 09 there, but it's got 18 here. So I think, yeah, 1 there, so it'll be 9. So it'll be pin 10 on this chip. 10 there. Yeah, it comes out. Yeah, resistor, capacitor. And along this line here off to who knows where. This must be this test point here. Oh yeah, that is our video out, I think. Should be the head output into an amp. A filter of some sort. Another amp. That's a C-cam. Yeah, playback into this chip. Pin 10, oh, it's the chroma output. Output amp here. That comes across here into this lot. This must be our Luma FM demodulator. So if we've not got a test point on there somewhere, so that comes out of pin 17. Because the chroma looks like one head's missing. Oh, don't lose that. Pin 17 is that one. Oh yeah, we're missing a head, I think. It's just got some random rubbish there. So that's what our Luma looks like. One half of what looks like one head signal very low. And that's where's our chroma, very similar. And when I say dead head, I mean anything connecting to one of those heads. So that's not looking too promising. I guess we can do a quick measurement there. In theory you should unplug it, but let's just do a quick check. I think it's the ground in the middle. That's not a good sign. No, nothing's connected. Oh, maybe they're connected between those two. Oh, I've got no connection. Oh, now we've got something. So it is between the two, and we haven't got a connection there. That's a bad sign. So they're not connected to ground. That's just shielding, probably. That's one end of that connector. I think it's connector 2. Yeah, it looks like the heads are between the two wires. So it says it should be connector 1 according to the manual, but unless we're reading the wrong thing, I just see a 002 there. So I think we've got an open circuit drum by the look of it, which would be just my luck. Let's just check this connector, everything looks right. Let's go to the pins themselves, I think, just to be sure. That is open circuit if I can get the pins in there. That side's good, yeah, other side the blue and yellow wire measuring open. Oh dear. While I'm in here, I've just unplugged that head connector. Not sure if we need to, but we might want to unplug the motor as well, which is not so easy. So I'm glad I didn't get a belt kit for it if it's got this sort of trouble. Let's turn her on and eject. And at least they're nice and easy to get the drum out of usually. Although do we need to undo? Looks like that wiring just comes up here. I don't know if I've ever had a drum out of one of these things. Where does that go? Behind this board, I think. Big clip there. Ooh, we're pulling the connector there. There's the connector. Gotta feed it through a bit. There, clipping into there. Let's just pull that up for now. Don't lose that connector. And we're going to undo 3 screws under here. I may have to get my hand under there to catch it. Number 2, oh, the other one's there, right. And now's a good time to put your hand under it. Often if they're sitting on the bench, I think they don't fall far, but best to be a little careful with them. Get the machine out of the way. So anything from dirty head to bad head, to check the head side, you normally got to disconnect 1 wire from each head. There's 4 wires. You can see a red, yellow for one side, brown, yellow for the other side. If you just disconnect, so the brown and red, then you can check the coils, because the heads will measure as a coil, and a short circuit, so will the drum. So that side you've got to separate them. This side not so much. I had a feeling this cover comes off. Do we have to take a couple of screws and it comes off the... Yeah, like I say, I don't think I've ever actually pulled one of these to bits. Looks like you have to undo those 2 screws. This whole aluminium piece removes. I wouldn't have thought... Yeah, you must be able to get in there and get to the connection somehow. Or does this just slide off? I reckon, yeah, these must solder onto a board. And we've got to slide that piece off. But to get that off, we've got to get the motor off. And I'm going to have some dinner. Okay, probably should mark this. I'm not sure it's got any markings. Double dot there, don't know. I'm just going to put a bit of marker pen on it. And hope it doesn't rub off. But normally these magnet assemblies have to go on a particular way, or you'll get some weird head switching issues. Looks like it's actually got a slight adjustment there. Probably to set things right. Ooh, that was well stuck on. Yeah, a bit of copper in there. I was going to say, is that a magnet, I assume? Yep. Now I've got some sort of little piece there, of course. And we'll actually only need to take, now I can never remember which one of these screw sets it is, and usually get the wrong one first. That's the extra long one, so it's probably the silvery ones. And I might just mark any old spot so I know which way around that went. So that little magnet thing faces the bit we're about to take off. Just want to inspect this, even though very unlikely there's anything wrong there. It's going to be the coils like usual, the brown glue probably. But worth a quick inspection. Oh, I should have took the anti-static thing off there. I guess I better just double check where it goes into the heads. But it's going to be somewhere in this lower drum. They're good. And they're open. Just make sure they're not connected anything else, so yeah, the blue and yellow again. Doesn't seem like they're scraping. Sometimes they come loose and can wear through, I think, but yeah, greasy there somewhere. That was where that little anti-static thing was. So we have to take this bit off as well. Might as well mark that the same. I was almost on that dot anyway, because this will also affect where the magnet bit we just took off goes. So I've got two little Allen key grub screws there. Find out what size they are. Are they that big? No, somewhere around. Is that the one? That's the one, I think. Which is a 2mm by the look of it. That's probably all it needs. And we've got some washers and bits and pieces. And that should push out through the bearings, in theory, or not. May have to tap this one out. Oh, depends on the machine. Let's just give it a tap with something soft. Those coils look pretty spotless in there, surprisingly. There isn't any brown glue there. Let's have a close-up look. Bound to be some corrosion somewhere. So it's this, what is it, this copper coloured coil rather than the red one. Let's just double check it up right at the coil. Be nice if that measures good there, but it doesn't. So I can't see any obvious corrosion. Yeah, there is some brown glue under there though, I think. Possibly right at the end bit there where the connections, or where it comes into the connections. If something's got in under that bit. Can we get this loose is the next problem, or is it? I think this one's still well glued on. Let's try it under. Oh yeah, we can get under there. Here we go. No, it's not that well glued on. Well, at least this one isn't completely destroyed, which makes a nice change. Can I carefully lift it up where it's connected? Is both of them coming? I think they are. Well, then again, are they? How have we got a break there somewhere? No, I think they're still connected. I don't know, maybe we do only have one. That's where I would have guessed it's probably broken. Yeah, I think it's lost one of the connections right where that glue is. Oh yeah, one of the wires has just stayed on the bottom. So that may be repairable. There's one little bit of wire comes across. Oops, I'm catching the other one. Don't want two to fix. So there's a little piece coming across there. And right where it got to the little groove there, it's broken off. Now whether we can connect at the end of that, or but we've got to find the other end of it on the coil is the important bit. Yeah, all it takes is a tiny bit of moisture or something in there to sit in there in that glue, and that's the end of that. Oh yeah, I can see the end sticking out underneath there. The glue goes into a little lump where it went down in the dip here where the wires sit. The actual connection wires, and there's a little lump of it just there. Probably should get a magnifier out. Oh, I've lost it now. Touch it and it's disappeared. So it was pretty, I think it was corroded at the other end possibly as well. Is this just a flat layer of wires? Or have we got multiple wires? I think it's just one, so it probably starts on the inside. Or on the inside here somewhere. But there's glue all over it. So strangely, I couldn't get the wire to peel off until about nearly a centimetre that way, when it should have come out there. So maybe that glue completely ate it away. But still no real green stuff there, which is interesting. No obvious corrosion. I just scraped the glue off and the wire disappeared with it. Yet there's no sign of any wire having come off. Now what we're going to do is try and scrape that up a bit and tin it. So I can try and solder a bit of wire on the end of it and see if we can repair this thing, which is going to be fairly difficult I think, but well, I've managed to tin the end of it by the look of it. Now I really just need to get like a, I guess ideally it would be an insulated wire, because I may have actually scraped some bits off this other coil, but I think we're just going to have to use a strand of copper out of some bit of wiring. So I just got this old power supply, strip the wire, I'll just take a strand of that, snip it off, at least we've got plenty of them there, and try and tin that. Which should happen easily with this wire, hopefully. I'll get the soldering iron to melt some. And now we've got the problem of we're going to have this big wire hanging off the other wire, which is going to want to break it off probably. Can't even see if I've got it in place. I think we've got it. Fiddly. Hard to even see if you're really touching the other wire. I guess I have to push that along the side of the coil. And we've got to go under the coil and across, haven't we? Where the other wire goes. Well, the other wire's peeled off a bit around the edge. So maybe it wasn't a centimetre away, it's just how the wires come loose a bit as well, probably. Oh, that makes more sense. Yeah, I think while I'm jerking it around all over the place, I've peeled a bit of this one off, because that would have only originally just gone across to it. So that's going to have to glue back in there, try and flatten everything out. I just want to get an idea where I'm at. Let's just put a dot on there so I know. Is it marking it? I can't even tell. That's better. Know where to bend the new wire. And I might have to flatten this out with some pliers a bit. So it glues in nicely. So I want to pull that back out, flip that through the other side to that black bit. Oh, I can barely even grab the thing, it's so fine. And just hope we don't short anything there. Not that we have to worry too much, it's only low current, but it'll certainly take the signal back out again as bad as being open circuit probably if we short the windings. And thankfully the other one seems to be still intact, because we don't need that breaking off now. Got to make sure all that's flat down inside the thing so it doesn't stick up and rub against the other half of the magnet, or rotary transformer I should say. Ferrite got to be fairly flat, and I've got to work out which side we're going to. That's the other problem. That one I think goes to that side. Well, I think I'm just going to have to shove it in the hole, right, bend it right down in there, hard up against the circuit board, and then flick it over the circuit board and over to that solder terminal. Maybe I should glue the coil back in place first, might be the smart thing, so we know exactly where it goes. I guess if we make this wire a bit longer, we've got a little bit of extra to play with. If I hold that there, oh God. That's actually pretty good, I think, as long as I can get this coil to glue down flat. Of course it wants to bend it now. I probably need to try and flatten it out a bit before I try and attach it. Let's just make sure it's a circuit again. That's a good sign. Now in theory I should use something I can get off here again, I guess, rather than araldite, but I think it's probably the best glue for the job. I put a little ring of it around. Problem is the 5-minute all leaked out of the tube, so this is the 24-hour stuff. I think we're going to have to hold that down for 24 hours. Make sure it can't lift up, and probably glue it right the way around. Okay, that's got it. And probably have to wipe the araldite off so none of that sticks up either. That's actually sitting quite good, lifting in a couple of spots. It's almost sticky enough to hold it. But I can guarantee it's going to lift up and be a pain. And that bit there is definitely not sitting quite right, so it hasn't gone in the groove, I don't think. So I need that to get into the groove. Yeah, just check again. Thankfully still connected. Yeah, how am I going to get this to stay without gluing something to it that won't come off again? I'll have to put some tape on it or something, because that side's going to lift. So yeah, back in the day I would have had a spare machine in the shed. I could have just pulled the whole drum assembly out and tossed the lot. Would have tossed the rest of it back in the irony alley bin, but these days you've actually got to try and fix these things. I think if I glue it, if I tape it down like that, we should be pretty right, I think. Okay, took the tape off this and seems to be pretty good. Quite smooth, I don't think it's sticking up anywhere. So I think I can put this thing back together and see how we go. I guess I better check it one more time for the continuity. Yeah, might as well make sure the other coil's still intact. And yeah, that wire I just had to go up and over. It was too hard to get under there because of glue and stuff. Possibly you could have prized this board off, but there's a high chance of breaking it. It seems to be very well glued down. So I thought I'd just go over. I don't think that should catch on anything. I guess we can put this upper drum back in there now. Don't think any other parts are involved. They're all on the other side. This should just sit down onto the bearing. Yeah, it's got a little brass bit there. Yeah, just got to be careful because this will suddenly want to go in. Might even have to put a bit of oil on it. There we go. Don't want it to come slamming down too hard. Ooh, that sounds a little scrapey. That sounds very scrapey. Damn it. Okay, what's scraping on what? I just hope it's not hitting that bit of wire, which is what I was worried about. There's a little bit of glue. Maybe some of this glue is sticking up a bit high. I don't know how fine the clearance is, but it's not going to take much to scrape. Was a bit lumpy there. That's a little better. There's a bit more down here that's possibly a bit high. Just gotta be careful I don't damage that wire I just put in there. Could some of this be a bit high? That little bit of coil sticking up maybe a little bit. Oh yeah, that was poking up a bit there. I think I had a bit of a lump. They obviously need these wires pretty close together to work as a rotary transformer, I guess. They've got to be pretty close. Feels almost like there's a little bit of a ridge there too. And that's the problem with, this coil is sticking up maybe a little bit there. That little piece there didn't glue down properly. Feels like there's something. Must have been a bit of glue on the inner there. Because yeah, we definitely don't want to touch that thing because that'll wear through it again and that'll be the end of that. And that's still making that noise. I mean, it's not a lot of friction, but could it be something to do with it not sitting? Certainly not slowing it down, but there is the slightest noise. And we'll try it again. No, it doesn't make the slightest difference. But whatever it is so light as to not cause any real problems. Now I think these bits all set on the outside here. That, then there's a plastic bit there. Yeah, that moved on me. Oh, I thought I'm seeing a reflection. Is that what it is? Getting some weird reflection here from the black bit onto the shaft. Makes it look like it's in the right position when it's not. So I'll get the black lined up with the top. I thought there was a mark going down the side. There's the other one. See that pretty tight. Yeah, it certainly sounds like something's still going. I think what I'll do is put it back together and we'll try it. That might make a bit of noise when it's going flat out, and maybe we'll end up wearing through it and have to redo that wire if it's touching that wire. Yeah, the fact that pushing up on it, though whether I'm really moving it, doesn't seem to stop it. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if it's something sticking up or that wire coming in from the side. Anyway, that'll have to do, I think, for now. We've definitely got that lined up right. Now we've got to get the circuit board first, isn't it, I think, or that cover first. Try and get this static thing over there. But I can't set it down. Motor assembly, which, did I put a mark here? I did, that's why I did it. It just makes life a lot easier when you can line those two bits up. Because it's been at least a couple of days now, so I can't remember what I did with it. So given you got to leave it for a while potentially, you might as well mark the thing make life easier. Get those nice and tight. And we've got a little disc plastic thing here that went, which are the main screw holes? We've got 4 of them, no, 3 of them. Oh, well, that would explain it then. That'd be, it's not really a cutout for that bit, is it? Well, must have gone something like that. And we've got a mark on there, lines up over this side. And that's pulling on pretty hard with the magnets. Probably should have marked where these, around one of these washers on these screws so I knew where they exactly went, but you can sort of see a bit of silver there. And I think I need to rotate it, the magnet slightly clockwise, so I have to hold the head. Yeah, it was around there, which aligns with those silver bits under that screw. Almost goes right around there, but I don't think it was quite that far. Now this needs a thorough clean because I've had my fingers all over it, and your fingers will corrode into that if you just leave it on there. They used to make cotton gloves for handling these things, so you didn't leave fingerprints. I think it was mainly like you definitely don't want it on these faces that touch the tape, but also so it didn't look bad if the customer ever opened it up and saw like this nice shiny surfaces of new heads or something covered in all sorts of corrosion and stuff. Big corroded fingerprints in it. It's actually a little bit of a scratch on the lower drum there. So I'll give all that a good clean. And really you should do every surface just to stop your fingers corroding into it. And all around this top rim of the head. Mainly just the drum bit, it doesn't matter so much these little cover plates and stuff. But it's just so it doesn't look bad, because that will leave a surprisingly bad corroded fingerprint over time. This drum does look a little corroded in places. Might even be worth putting a bit of metal polish on this one. I'm just trying to get this really polished up. To see what the surface is like, because there seemed to be a little bit of a tension issue. This certainly isn't perfectly clean. There's sort of muck on the edge of these little grooves leading up to that head. I might even give that a light polish. Really doesn't look good at all. That side's pretty good. I think it's just that one side. It's probably been sitting somewhere copping a bit of moisture or something, leading into and out of that head. And just polish all that muck off. Yeah, it's certainly a lot better. Not sure it's perfect, but it's pretty good now. But while I've got the sound of the machine, might as well give it a really good going over. And that's coming up like new nearly. Yeah, a couple of little spots there, not perfect, but it is an old machine now. Probably done a lot of use. I think someone worked out how many miles one of these heads do. I think it was it Rod Humphreys or something from RMIT, and I think he worked out they do around 50,000 kilometres before they wear out, much like a set of car tyres. I seem to remember some bit of trivia like that floating around once upon a time. Because if you work out the rate that these spin at and the how many centimetres a second the tape's going at, you can basically calculate the mileage they do. But yeah, still make a little bit of a noise. If that is that wire, it's probably going to wear through, but let's just see if it actually at least gets this machine going again. But it certainly might turn out that I should have actually broken, or if necessary, that board and lifted it up and put the wire under that. Try not to get too much fingers on everything I just polished up. And just being careful. Drop this in there. I have to. I might be able to get at least a couple of screws in with it just sitting there. Let's start them off. Here's the hole, I think. Yeah, got one, I think. Must have gone in the right hole. The other one, I can see the threaded bit up the hole. Yeah, that went in a bit easier than I expected. And should have one more screw here somewhere. Is that it? Doesn't look big enough. I love a nice bit of Japanese engineering. That just went straight back in, pretty much sitting where it should have been. Plug the motor back in. I'll get the head wire back underneath. Where was it? It was down behind this tuner board thing. The connector here seems to like coming out. It must have come out here somewhere. That would be it. Yeah, for a minute I thought I had to go between the chassis and the plastic, but I think that's right. So that comes across here. There was a metal cover I might as well put back on. What did I unplug? I unplugged that lead up there, so I've got to put that back on. Feels a bit like something's in the way. lead there. Make sure that wire's got it out of the way. Probably should have pulled a little bit more through. Anyway, that'll do for the minute. Is there another clip here somewhere? Maybe not. There's one, oh there. Get this front panel back in place a bit. Okay. Better check it one more time, I guess. Better put this metal cover back on. We only had that off for test purposes. I forget which they're the grounds. So they're the heads, yeah, and they don't measure the ground, or we hope they don't. No, that's good. So I've at least got connection there, doesn't mean it'll work. But fingers crossed. Now, one of these is power. I'll better check if the tuner lights are on. It's doing that again. Hopefully just a bad belt, but it could be a bad mode switch, I guess. Let's see if we can at least rewind good. It's more than it was doing before. Drum's not making any weird noises. We've got our horizontal lines back, so I think that's another issue. So that's what I was heating up with a hairdryer for, so that might be another issue. But there's looking like there's a lot more video in behind that, at least it's something. And there we have it, good picture. That was in the back corner of the board, getting towards where that relay was, and there's a ANIC there. Oh, we're losing it again. Yeah, it could be one of these adjustments. Touching that pot makes it go a bit weird. So maybe that drum was already making that noise, so I should have given it a good spin, I guess, before I pulled it to bits. Maybe hear a little bit of noise in it. You never know, that might have just been the bearings are a bit dry or something. But we have a working head drum again. And amazingly, these belts are holding up. I think it's just the goo on them that's making them work. At least that fast forward rewind idler. So the area I was heating is back down here. It's right around here somewhere, I think. Probably really need a bit of, oh, I can see a corroded capacitor, I think. A bit of freeze spray to find it easily. I don't think I checked any of the caps on this board, but that one right there, which is C2015 maybe, that's 2018. Next to this, UPC 1504 CIC, that has got a green lead on it, so I'm pretty sure 10 volt 33 mic, that's probably going to be shot. Yeah, we've got PG shift, tracking shift and stuff around here, so that's one of your signals to lock the drum in or something. But once you heat it up, it seems to be fine. Once it gets hot enough, it drifted off when I first did it. But it's still holding at the moment. So maybe we'll check that cap. And that's about all I can... Oh, something's going here. Is it just a tracking thing? Well, we're losing sync again. The tracking went, and now it's starting to go into horizontal lines, pulsing. Well, I'll tell you the other little trick you can do is just... Sometimes these cases will be affected by touching it, but... Let's put some heat from the soldering iron into it. And it's not making any difference so far. Of course, it takes a little while to go in there, but... No. Maybe we're just heating part... Maybe that cap's faulty and we're heating the circuit up and that's helping it lock in more generally. Well, it hasn't gone completely to pot. Is that getting slightly better? Yeah, it's slowing down. It's just you're tracking then lines, then colour bars, and yeah, now here we come. We've got colour bars again. Solid. Whoops. It's that cap, I think. Not very often you actually get to see it corroded, but with the age of these machines now, I guess you can actually spot it by visual inspection. I just happened to notice that one of the leads, which just handily was bent over more to one side than the other one, was a little green. So I think we'll replace that cap. Did it suck the tape back in? It did. Now I can hear that head or drum making a little bit of noise as it slows down. But I think we can call that a successful repair. I wouldn't do it for a paying job. That capacitor, because I don't consider that really a good repair. I think I said 2015, did I? That cap there, I think. Yeah, 2018, so it must be that one there, I think. I guess we should. Oh, I can pull it out and measure it anyway, can't I? But worth doing an ESR check just to see what it says. But I kind of didn't expect any caps to have failed on this side of the board because it's lower temperature, lower signal. But of course you just don't know until you get other issues solved. I certainly would have had a look, but we tracked that down the old way. What I say it was there, 33 10 volt. A little bit of green left, some of it's fallen off. I think it was right down the lead, it looked like. And it might measure half decent now that I've heated it up. But it's probably going to still measure out. It's measuring open circuit at the moment. Oh, here we go. It's measuring 0.91, somewhere around there. So I'm not making the best connection probably because these leads are a bit corroded. 33 mic, only a 10 volts. It's probably not far out at the moment, but let's change that over and see if we have problems from cold again. 33 16 volt. Obviously got to get the polarity right, and I can't really see from the bottom side of which way it went. We've got a positive, it's got like a semicircular white bit is the negative, and it does say positive over the other side, so negative is towards this break in the board, or gap between the boards. They're really two boards. Yeah, short enough, we don't really need to cut them off, but it won't hurt. Yeah, heat that cap up again and it comes right. So maybe some adjustment here is slightly out. Yeah, now it's a bit out of whack. Pretty sure I could actually hear it. Oh, it's locked in again now. Could hear something hunting a bit, probably the head drum. I wonder if one of these adjustments is ever so slightly out. Just notice this little blue pot here, R2022. It's got cylinder FR, so free run or frequency or something. I think I just made the drum spin up. Oh yeah. Ha! Put my finger on those dials and the drum motor spins up. But let's see what it does. I've had it off a little while. We're probably going to lose our... Yeah, it's hunting a bit. And it's nearly come in. It has come in now. There's that pointing roughly straight across, slightly clockwise. Yeah, that sets it off. I think that might even just be right on the edge. I probably should look in... I don't have a full menu, unfortunately. So that capacitor being faulty may have really had nothing to do with it. It was... Come back slightly from there. It's not completely bad, but now it goes into that unlocked state. So most of these later machines have all this inner chip and stuff all servo locked in, and there are no adjustments for any of this. But yeah, that's got it at the moment, so I wonder if from cold it might just be that pot was ever so slightly out with component values changing over time. Sometimes you just find these adjustments are just sitting on the edge of locked, and so just even temperature variations can be enough to upset things. But given this thing's going on 40 years old, everything's probably changed value a bit. Capacitors and resistors and all sorts of things may have drifted slightly, and you add a few of those things up. So definitely worth changing that cap anyway, since it was leaking and could potentially do something to the board, but normally they just sort of leak out, maybe corrode their own leads, and that's it, unless they're from that capacitor plague era, which spew their entire contents out on everything and destroy the whole unit quite often. And sometimes you do find things with bad capacitor leakage, but a lot of them just seem to slowly dry out and it evaporates or whatever and doesn't cause any issues. Try from cold again. Well, not that cold, but colder than it was. Yeah, this time it locks in. Tracking down this thing. So I might try that again from cold just to prove a point. But I think it might have just been that adjustment out. Capacitor probably didn't help, but it did still measure reasonable, and that can be the problem with heating things up. You think you got a faulty part and it's just adjusting the values of things in the circuit enough that a trim pot or whatever that's right on the edge, sort of the range of things changes and it locks in again. So it's not always a faulty part. Sometimes it's just adjustments, but I don't recommend just tweaking everything randomly unless you have some idea what you're doing. I get a feeling I've had that sort of thing in these machines or machines of this era before. Not sure about this particular model, but you sometimes get one that's just on the edge and a bit of a tweak and away it goes back into range. I mean, ideally you get the service manual and follow their setup. But with things like the drum, there is a servo loop to lock everything in anyway. Not sure why they really have an extra adjustment. But these earlier machines are full of all sorts of things that are later done in chips, so we'll leave it at that. I'll let it cool down properly, probably overnight, and then try it again. And if it's working, I think I'll just put this back together for now and decide whether to get a belt kit for it. I think I'm going to have to take the idler out, the main idler in the middle of the tape that does rewind fast forward, because that's sticky as, and clean those reels up, at least get that out and get some acetone in and clean all that off. Possibly worth putting a belt kit in it just for the sake of it, so we can see how it's done. They're very simple from memory, these, but are there any difficult belts? I don't think so. You remove that plastic cover, that bracket, and I think you can do everything on this side. That belt just comes off, big long one there comes off. There's one under that, big flat capstan belt. Geez, that feels soggy. And a couple of idlers, maybe an idler rubber on the real motor or something. I don't think these had that, but they might have done. Some machines had a little sleeve on that. But I've got enough belt kits to do, I don't really want any more. Let's just turn that back on and eject it. Well, that locked in that time. Yeah, we've got a counter belt, middle idler. Oh yeah, there is a sheath type idler in that shaft, so we've got to take that off. Play idler over here, and I think that's it. At least the pinch roller seems to be good, Nick. The brake tension band looks like it's been done, so that's it, I think. I don't think there's any other part. Oh, there's a second counter belt coming out the front. So one from the real to an intermediate, probably a Hall effect sensor. Actually, the Hall effect sensor's here, so just an intermediate pulley. Here it's just a double pulley. That doesn't feel like it wants to go, but are we braked? Probably are. Are we double braked? Yeah, we are. Oh, that would have stopped if that wasn't running anyway, because the Hall effect would have stopped working. So 2 belts there, 2 idlers, one little bit in the middle I think has to be changed, and about 4 belts on the other side, so quite a simple one to do. Almost not worth the bother in a way, but I guess now that I've got it going this much, we should probably finish it off. Unfortunately it's missing that front cover, it's not the best, but I'll try it again from cold to make sure we've at least got this thing running properly. Well, got it going from cold again, and it's got some other patterning on it. I better check the tracking, I guess. Now, it's definitely still got another issue there somewhere, but at least it's not all lines. So maybe that was hidden. Oh, I've hit the end of the tape. And it's automatically going to rewind. It's actually rewinding quite well by the look of it, so that's handy. Given that idler's just about shot, it's amazing. But it's sounding worse and worse as the tension builds up, I guess. Now it's slipping and it's gone. Oh, we've got a little bit of tape back at least. Yeah, looks like we might have something out in there somewhere. Yes, we've got some dots on the screen. And some very weird patterns. I don't think I've ever seen that on a VCR before. I've got no idea what causes that. I'm just messing with the tracking control at the moment, but that patterning is... There's some dropouts like bad heads or something, as well as that weird... It's not even a herringbone pattern or something, I don't know what that is. Or where you would start to try and track that issue down. but it's quite an interesting pattern. Again, heating it up will probably get rid of it. So I am wondering whether it's worth investing a belt kit in this thing. But anyway, that's all I'll do with it for the moment, and I'll think about whether I might just put a belt kit in it for the fun of it, I guess. Show how it's done though. They're pretty straightforward, these machines. Be interesting to see whether it fixes that eject problem, because I just ejected it again and it wouldn't shut, so I had to hit eject a second time. Whether that is the mode switch or belt slipping or something else, who knows. But we seem to have got the heads working fairly well in this. Shows you can repair these lower drums, upper drums, whichever part fails, if you really try, if they're not too badly gone. This was only just one little fracture, though I did lose a bit of the wire length, so it must have corroded a bit of a section of it out. And I'm just wondering, do we have any dates on these motors? Here we go. We've got 19th of January 83 on this capstan motor. I just thought there might be some dates on this, so it is definitely an early 83 machine, this one. But they definitely came out around that era. That's when video recorders really took off in Australia. Things around the Sharp 9300, Sharp 381. These ones were earlier ones like the NV300 and the, were they 7? No, actually I think the 730. I think they might have been 7300 or something. There was, I did have a few of the early top loading Panasonics I got from somewhere, and I think I ended up just throwing them all out, unfortunately, because they were a bit past their use by date, bigger machines than this one. There was an NV2000, I think I've only seen one of those. And once upon a time I saw a piano key, really early, probably around 77, 78 kind of era, Panasonic, but that was in bad condition. I think it had been damaged or something. I can't remember much more about that one, but I think that was just like a parts machine. It ended up getting thrown out because never needed any parts. I don't think I ever saw one again of their piano key ones. Very expensive sort of thing that was sold in America with twin tuners on the front, though ours I think were all push button. We didn't get quite the early ones that they did, or certainly didn't sell in any real numbers. But this was probably the earliest National that sold in very large numbers. Then they went to the 370, which is basically a top load version of pretty much the same thing. No doubt I'll come across one of those again somewhere sooner or later, because they sold thousands of those as well. Don't know if they sold quite as many as this. And that's when they started going to the things like the 850, the hi-fi machines, and then the things like the 280s, or 250, 450, 280, 480s, or something along those lines, different versions of those machines, which I do have one here, or maybe a couple of them here that I've got to get onto. One's got a weird fault in it that I started and stopped working on it. Looks like a faulty chip. I think it's something similar where you heat a chip up or something and it comes good, but it's not the chip and doesn't seem to be anything around it. But it looks exactly like a faulty chip, which it normally never is in these things. The semiconductors are very reliable normally. Even the ones that do all the high power motor driving and stuff never seem to fail in these. Though, of course, when you say never, there's always the odd exception out there. And yeah, they were quite a popular machine. This one's got the door missing, which makes it not so good even as a display machine. Would be nice to see some of those earlier Nationals, but they are rather rare these days, and they were rare all the time. This seemed to be the most common one you'd see people bring in. The one machines before that are much more sort of commercial. People bought them and stuff, schools, that type of thing. The average person really didn't spend a lot of money on them until they got down to the sort of prices. I'm not even sure what these are. I think I've got an advert for one of these in a newspaper or something somewhere. Have to see if I can find that. But they were still, I forget how much they were, $400 or $500, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. But yeah, they were over $1,000, a lot of the earlier machines, and then came down to sort of $700, $800, and I think these came down another couple of hundred off that. And yeah, great little machine these were, very reliable back in the day, but of course they've aged another 20 or 25 years since I really had anything to do with them. So they're not in a quite as good condition these days, unfortunately. And we're getting these issues like the drums and caps and all sorts of God knows what going on in them. All these parts are getting very old now. They certainly outlived their expected lifetime. Some of these machines had an awful lot of use. People used to watch many videos a week. Other people rarely used them, just for the odd thing to record off TV, the odd rental video or whatever. So it varied a lot, but you did see some of these machines with fairly high hours, and some of you did see a few worn out heads and stuff in them, but generally the mechs didn't really wear out in these other than the belts, which is just going to go, whether you use them or not, the age gets to the rubber. I think I changed a few heads in these machines from wearing out. I think it's the first time I've ever had a drum out of one for any reason other than to maybe unscrew one and throw it in the scrap metal bin back when I was tossing one out. These are just the old steel mechs, so whoops, I'm setting it off there with the end sensor there. That's the LED one. But the later ones after this had the die-cast chassis. These ones were just steel, so back years ago you couldn't get anything for scrap steel, but I would often just quickly unscrew things like those head assemblies and just toss them in the irony alley and get a whole 25 cents a kilo or something. Same with like the power transformer, you could just unscrew that board, throw it in. Normally you wouldn't even bother with caps to motors and stuff unless you'd pulled them apart for some other reason. And the later machines, you just undo about 4 or 5 screws and just rip the whole mech out, cut a few wires and throw the whole thing in the scrap metal. And that was kind of my Christmas beer fund. It didn't add up to an awful lot, but I'd get nearly a ton of irony alley mixed with transformers and other stuff a year. The place I used to take it just took it all as one lot, but I think it was really meant to separate motors and transformers. But things like old magnetrons out of microwaves, which you'd get quite a few a year, you'd replaced in repairs. And any TV yokes that were hard to pull apart, all that sort of stuff just went in the scrap bin. Transformers added up to quite a bit, especially with microwave oven transformers and that sort of thing. And a lot of the old TVs had big transformers in them that I'd often save. And any bit of aluminium that wasn't really worth stripping a few transistors off or whatever, because it had other bits on there, you just throw it in and the rest of it would go to the tip normally. Though I did have a guy who took a lot of this stuff away. I must find the photos. I've got a couple of photos of the mountain of stuff he had. A lot of it came out of my shop. It was quite an impressive heap he'd gathered in his paddock. I think the council finally got onto him eventually, but it was probably worth a fortune for the scrap metal in the end. He had a lot of old cars and all sorts of junk that he collected back when nobody could get any money for it, so he probably would have made quite a few $1,000s out of it if he sold it at the peak. Whether he could let go of it then, he was a bit of a hoarder, so not sure he could do that. But yeah, I must find those. I've got those photos somewhere. Back of my old photos from the early 2000s. But quite an impressive pile, and yeah, probably a few things I can see. I'm pretty sure there's a nice Sony stereo 21-inch Trinitron TV there with a gas tube and a few other things that you'd really want to save these days. But anyway, that's as far as I'll go with this one for the moment. I think I'll just partly assemble it and then decide whether I'll spend the money on a belt kit and the time to do it, given it's not a particularly difficult machine. But I probably should remove that idler and clean these reels off one way or another so it doesn't get any gooier. And we'll see how we go from there. So, thanks for watching.